Hello guys and girls and the NSL fans, and first of all, before I begin to the conversation with Solly Williams, I want to say thank you to all the lovely people who have helped to contribute to make it possible for the NSL News, myself, to make the trip to Eloy very soon for the World Championship and bring all the good stuff to you. Thank you. And Solly will probably be there too. And we may talk about this later. Solly Williams. We have been sitting here at this place a few times in the past.
many years. Trying to think, I got to cast my mind back to when we first started doing these, but mid-90s maybe?
Probably, yeah.
Getting old.
In the beginnings we were sitting here at this place only to drink beer and chat at the end of a training day.
Mm-hmm.
But then as time progressed, now we are sitting here most of the times to talk to the NSL News audience, meet with teams, and once again the situation is exactly like this, but we get to that later too. We have the Norwegian national forward team Agera FS 2022 here, and that's another story for later. They're going to the World Meet. But we want to talk first about the USBA Nationals, because you've been there. You haven't been there a few times, but this year you were back for coaching, and you're working with Skydive Midwest next.
Correct.
And they have been doing really well this year.
I had been approached by them to do a camp down here in DeLand, going back, I don't know, maybe sort of 6-7 months ago. And we had fantastic weather over that camp. We had a great camp, and they went on to Belgium for the tunnel indoor competition right after that, where they had great success. I was not involved in their tunnel training at that stage, so that's all them. And then the relationship continued with a few trips up to Skydive Midwest over this year, and culminated in a trip to Nationals. Yeah, fantastic team. They came to me wanting to create a platform for 4-year training program, and so that's how we started out. I wanted to change a few things that I thought would better them in the long run, and overall I thought it is a great year considering the amount of jumps they made.
And you were naturally, of course, observing, watching, not only next, but also the rest of the 4-way open class competition and whatever else you could see.
Yeah, for starters, what a great Nationals it was in terms of the 4-way. Weren't we so fortunate with the weather? But I mean, again, Skydive Chicago and the facilities there, it's just so well geared up for a competition like that, and they always handle it so well. So the weather was amazing, and not many teams can say they've made as many rounds of competition in a day like that. But that was fantastic. I certainly watched as many of the airspeed rounds. It went so fast, it was hard to watch the rounds on the day, but I did go back and look at some rounds and try to sort of watch the top 5-6 teams and see what they were doing. So it didn't yield the excitement. We knew airspeed was going to be ahead of everybody. Obviously, that's the top team on the planet right now, and what a performance they put on. I mean, it's an unusual competition for them, not having any direct pressure other than their own pressure. So you never really can say how the competition would go if another top team was contending with them there. It might have even propelled them to do better, rather than if they're completely relaxed and not having any pressure. You never really know. So I thought they had a great meet, and they look awesome. They look fantastic. I'm sure everybody will agree with. It's a very strong lineup that they have right now, and they look very correct, and everything looks, in my opinion, looks fantastic there. I think the surprise of the event was Hammer Time, because nobody really knew that they were going to show up, and what a strong lineup they had, and they did fantastic. The jumps that I watched of theirs, they managed that exercise very well, and I'm not sure how much training they did, if too much at all, but it is impressive.
2 jumps.
They made 2 training jumps, and it just shows the wealth of experience in that group of people.
And that was the first time for Eliana in the tail slot. Andrew Happig did the point.
Yeah, at that level possibly, but wasn't she tail on Tunnel Rage back in the day? Maybe I have that wrong, or on the US team, I can't remember, but I felt that Eliana had maybe been a tail somewhere along. I didn't think about that, and I might be completely wrong. But the bottom line is the way they narrow down their exits to just a couple exits, and they grip switch their way through. So yeah, it is very well done. And
standard exits in the open class.
And it's not that easy just to get such high caliber jumpers like that together and still do a 20 plus average. And that draw was a little slow in my opinion, just a little bit on the slower side. So they did fantastic, and then nobody knew what rhythm was going to do, because I certainly didn't know how much training they'd made, and they have trained hard this year, and I'm really glad for them. They had a great result, and you always want that for teams that put in the effort and make the jumps. And so I didn't catch too many of their rounds in the competition themselves itself, but I noticed that their speed, in my opinion, you look at the inherent speed of a team, and I could see that probably was going to be the team that was going to be in the top 3 at least, and they kept it together. They had a couple of little wobbles here and there in the middle of the meet, but well done to them, absolutely. And the girls, what an incredible result for them too, because they've gone through some changes and new members, and so that as a prelude to what's going to go on in Eloy, I thought that was a fantastic showing, and they should be proud of themselves with that effort as well, given some of the experience levels in the team. And then behind them was Next. We started off solid. I thought we probably gave away too many points on the bust board, and that maybe took them a little bit out of the game early on. We had a couple of double busts here and there, and I don't know if that's attributed to just maybe not as many training jumps as the teams.
How many did they have?
I think they had planned to do maybe, I don't want to be quoted on this because I did watch every jump of theirs this year, and I should know how many they were, but what I do know is in the build-up to their competition, they were getting hampered by weather. So the weekends that they had planned for some of their competition training, they lost quite a few training jumps close to the meet, and I think that might have just taken a little bit of confidence away. But they certainly weren't up in the 500 category that I believe the girls and Rhythm did. I'm going to take a flyer and say high 200s. So they should also be very proud of their results. And they took on a lot of new information this year too. So it is a good result for them.
We lost 2 days, complete days, in the 4-way, 8-way information driving competition at Skydive Chicago. I've never experienced that before. You probably neither.
I don't know if certainly I've lost a whole day at a World Championship or at a Nationals, but 2 completely socked in days like that. Yeah, I'd have to think really hard about that one.
So Midwest weather,
well, that's what they told me when we were planning jumps. They said, well, Midwest jumps, if you can average out at somewhere around 8. If you schedule 4 days and you make 30, you're doing okay. But in truth, it is worse than that. They had. I don't know. Maybe it's just a little bit of the unlucky season, but they definitely were down on jump numbers, and it affected them a little bit. I think so.
Not that much better in Florida, though.
No,
at the moment, at least.
4 seasons stayed here, but in a day I'm talking about, because it is blue skies this morning. It is busy, and then next minute we're socked in here.
Hurricanes coming.
There's a hurricane 4 days out.
I remember I took a photo on the NSL news of the screen in 1998. That was in Sebastian, or was it 98?
Yes, the Nationals, was it? Or
Nationals.
Yes, yeah.
When 4 hurricanes were lined up, and in between we got a few days of it was raining and all kind of stuff. But
I think that is 99.
99.
Right before Australia, I think it was. Yeah. Australia.
Yeah, right before the
it
World
was
Meet, so
99,
99,
yeah.
right.
Yeah,
Speed
it's
would go.
Florida. I mean, it could be blue skies in 10 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So and that is affecting the Norwegian team,
Yes.
probably right now. I mean, it's the first day for them.
They
here.
arrived last night. When I say they, I would say I should change that and say 4 of them arrived last night.
So
We've
tell
been
the
joking
story,
about
Sally.
it this morning, but
We have a story. We have an
yeah,
Akira story.
we have a member that I'm sure when he watches this he's going to feel like he's got pie on his face. But we have Christopher on our tail and Aguirre. He is currently looking for his passport in Norway. He didn't join the team on their flight over yesterday. So it's a mad scramble for him to try and find this passport, and it's kind of funny, obviously, when somebody misses something like this. But there's got some repercussions to it that are not going to be funny, because
Right.
if he doesn't find this passport, he will not get a new issue before the World Champs in Eloy. So he will not be able to go to Eloy. So we're really desperately hoping that he's going to find that at home here and come and join us in a day or two.
But we have
in
a
the meantime, we have a very famous alternate
alternate.
that's going to pull in. That'd be him.
No, the real one is in Norway. The real one is in Norway. So
Yes.
Carl Erik
is maybe going to come to the rescue if needed in Arizona. That would be Carl Erik, the previous tail of the Norges and world medalist numerous times. So that might happen. I have not jumped for 3 years, but I had planned to jump this week, actually, just to get myself recurrent and check my knee out. I had a knee surgery some time ago. But we've also, Kurt's going to be plugging in, and we're going to limp the Segura team across the line here some way or another. I don't know if I want to sign up to 10, 12 jumps a day and having not jumped for 3 years, but
yes.
yeah, we'll see how it goes, and see if we can get Aguirre to Eloy feeling like they're somewhat ready.
But we are making fun of it, but it's a sad story. Hopefully, we wish as much as we can that
Yes, absolutely.
the team will be
Find that
complete
passport
and,
out there,
find
buddy.
that passport, and then,
Yeah.
and then now we are already at the topic of World Meet coming.
It's maybe a reminder to all teams out there to go and make sure that they know where their passports are, because it seems like it's universal now. Nobody can get emergency passports anymore. Those days are gone. So if Norway is having no emergency passport scenarios, and and the US doesn't accept emergency passports. That's their bigger problem.
Oh, I see.
So not only would it take 7 weeks for a true passport, the US won't allow emergency passports to enter right now. I only learned this morning. So,
But aren't they kind of accelerated, where you pay more and then everything goes quicker? US has that. If you need a passport really quickly, if you pay enough money, you can get it in a shorter time frame.
I discovered last year that the expedited service for passports are not always available. They're currently available again in the US 4 weeks.
4 weeks?
4 weeks. I found that out
and
last
Norway
week.
doesn't have that, or?
They do, but no, to be honest with you, I can't answer that question. They told me this morning it will take 7 to 8 weeks for a new issue. So in the meantime, we're wishing the search the best there in Norway, and hopefully we see Christopher in Eloy.
What do we expect for Eloy?
In terms of this Norwegian team, or just across the board?
In general, across the board, yeah. I mean, Airspeed is going to be in a similar situation as at the Nationals. We had Hayabusa and Qatar Tigers actually doing the same draw. Qatar Tigers were at Skydive Chicago.
Right.
Hayabusa did the same at their Nationals, under similar conditions at least. And we know the results already for Eloy anyway, right? I mean, will that change?
So I have to be honest, I don't know what Hayabusa's results were for doing that draw. Are they public?
22-7, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's posted on, it was their Nationals.
Okay. Oh, really? I didn't know that. Okay. So I think it's not rocket science that Airspeed are it would be nice to see this current Airspeed team go up against the older the Hayabusa generation, right? Because those were two very athletic teams at just unfortunately different times now, and so we're not going to see that fight that we would all dream of. So it's going to be interesting for Airspeed. It's almost going to be slightly unprecedented world championship where the winning team might be that far ahead of everybody else. Who can match them in speed?
It was historic already at USBA Nationals. It has never 50 points or whatever it was, has never happened before in the history of USPA nationals.
And that's just sport. You can't plan that, you can't time that. It happens, but this is historic.
There's
And,
strong years, weak years, and then, so it's,
but generally there's always been a pretty good fight all the way through, and I mean, I know Hayabusa they had a relatively easy World Championship last year, as far as I remember. I can't remember exactly how far they were ahead of the US. But
there's probably a good fight for the second place, because we have the French team, the Hayabusa, Qatar Tigers.
I don't know what the French team were doing.
Well, they did 22 some plus at the nationals.
That I do know, and but in terms of their lineup, I don't know if it's the same lineup. There's always a little bit. It is the same. Like, well, you're the guy. You know it all. But I was always wondering if there's a little surprise package coming out of France.
It's the youngest lineup probably in history of four-way open class World Championship.
Fantastic.
Competition. Yeah.
I'm very glad to hear that.
They were one of the four-way juniors of 2000. I don't know, 1920 in the national junior team, as in the outdoor team now.
So the question is, can Qatar take advantage of all the changes? And because that is the most experienced team in the top 5.
More than a decade together now.
And so
you know them from the very beginning. You did AFF with them, right?
I put that team together.
Yeah.
So they're all.
Gary has it now. Your teammate.
they're exceptionally talented guys. I think motivation is something that's going to carry them through. Their preparation between now and the World Champs will make a big difference between how they show in Eloy, because I would go as far as saying the pressure is on them to be top of that second, third place, and so that adds a different dynamic there.
It's very dramatic because either Hayabusa or the French team or the Qatar Tigers will end up without a medal.
Right.
So one will be in fourth place.
So that's probably the heat of the meet right there.
Absolutely,
right? That's going to be the most fun.
Right.
And so we're going to see teams competing under a different kind of pressure there. And I look forward to watching that. Because
that is very exciting.
Pressure is a very different animal. And when you don't have it, you can also react poorly to it too as well. So.
And it's not for the first place, but, it's exciting no matter what. Anyway, it's not always for the first place,
Correct. No. There's always fights all the way down the board, and we speak to teams in 10th place, 15th place.
Exactly, yeah.
I remember being there. We had our fight for 11th place, and then we had our fight for 5th place, and you always find yourself somewhere on a scoreboard competing with the groups around you.
And you should. So that's what it's all about. It's not just about the first place. So it's a good experience actually now for everybody. Here's an exciting competition, and it's surely not for the gold medals. Which is, you should never say something like this, because the fat lady, what if an ESPN member gets sick or gets in a car crash the night before round 1 or whatever, you never know.
Absolutely.
So that's what alternates are for. You never know what's going to happen.
You've got to bring your A game on the day, and so I mean, and your own individual pressure is on yourself too. You want your best performance. You should be bringing your best performances to World Championships. So you should be challenging yourself too as well, rather than just looking for a podium. I agree with you.
Well, Solly, that was great talking. After a while, I guess we're going to leave it like that. We covered, some of the USPA Nationals, some of the Norwegian drama, the upcoming World Meet, and there will be much more to be talked about.
Right, yeah, look forward to seeing everybody in Eloy. I am going to be there and looking forward to that. And
hopefully with a complete Norwegian lineup and Carl Erik as the alternate. And
maybe it's still time for you to get a Norwegian passport.
I don't know if Germany can do that within 1 week. I have a German passport.
Good stuff.
All right, good stuff. Thank you, Solly.
My pleasure.